Greetings everyone, this is Curtis Duncan, and I wanted to do a video today on how soy causes painful periods and endometriosis. Soy is a very popular health food today. It's really not a health food, it's actually a toxic food. And it has gained popularity due to just the massive and enormous influence of the soy industry and all the propaganda and bullshit studies they put out there, which have stated that soy is great, soy is wonderful, soy will increase your sex life, prevent cancer, all these different studies. And you really can't trust studies because most studies and even science these days is totally financed by corporations and by different special interests who want to push and promote their product. That is the essence of capitalism. This is actually a strategy that was devised by the father of advertising, Eddie Bernays. He devised to have companies put out so-called studies, which are really not studies, which are really corporate propaganda, stating that their product is great, helpful, and beneficial, and to make it seem as though as if the studies are coming from so-called experts. So a lot of these studies about soy and some of the benefits of soy estrogens are just totally false because soy is a really toxic food, particularly the type of soy that we consume here in America. Here in America, 94% of the soy is genetically modified, meaning that is a laboratory crop designed by corporations like Monsanto and Dow Chemical, etc., to be resistant to different types of herbicides. And they actually insert a gene into the plant. And by inserting this gene, it actually creates numerous toxic effects upon the plant, which end up creating close to about 53 diseases in humans. Genetically modified foods are some of the worst foods ever invented, and 94% of the soy that we consume today is genetically modified, and it's unlabeled. Since corporations control the government, you don't have to worry about us ever knowing whether we're eating genetically modified foods, because Monsanto and some of these other big biotechnology and genetically modified companies that make GMOs control the USDA and the federal government. So you're never going to know when you're ever going to be consuming GMOs. So unless you're buying organic or non-GMO soy, chances are that you are consuming genetically modified soy. And most of the soy that people consume today is actually in the form of vegetable oil. So when you go out to different fast food establishments, most of the vegetable oil that they're cooking the fries in and some of the other fried foods in is soy oil, genetically modified soy oil. And also soy is used as animal feed. So most of the meat that people consume today contains soy estrogens and some of the harmful chemicals found within soy, which I will elucidate on here shortly. But soy is definitely bad news for women, and it causes painful menstrual cycles. There's been research which has documented how genetically modified soy actually causes changes in a woman's uterus, which causes her to have retrograde menstruation, which is basically the hallmark of endometriosis. And one of the reasons why it causes this is just due to the really toxic effects of the genetically modified soy. But not only that, the soy actually contains Roundup, and Roundup is a really toxic herbicide which is sprayed on all soy crops, because most of the soy is Roundup ready soy, meaning that is actually resistant to Roundup, which is a very powerful herbicide which if you spray too much of, it can actually kill all the plants and kill anything really. So that's why Roundup is actually a really dangerous herbicide, and it's sprayed on all the soy that people consume today. And when you consume this genetically modified soy, which contains a really toxic chemical known as Roundup, then you are going to develop endometriosis due to the changes that occurs within your uterus. Because endometriosis is a disease which is skyrocketing today here in America. Just like the rates of chronic disease have been skyrocketing since the advent of genetically modified foods in 1996. They were released on the public without the public's consent and without the public's knowledge. So endometriosis is definitely on the rise. And then endometriosis is also caused by estrogen. And since the 1930s, there's been an influx of different estrogenic chemicals which are causing women to develop breast cancer, early puberty, fibroids, endometriosis, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, and a whole host of reproductive cancers, and even obesity, because many of these chemicals are also known as obesogens. So whenever you consume something like soy, which contains high amounts of plant-based estrogens, your body does not distinguish between a natural estrogen, your own estrogens which you're producing, and a chemical estrogen. It responds to all estrogens the same. That's why you have estrogen receptors in every part of your body if you're a woman. So when you are exposed to these different estrogens, natural or unnatural, it's actually going to cause many of the health problems that so many women experience today, including endometriosis. Because as I mentioned, endometriosis is caused by estrogen. It is an estrogenic disease. Just about every disease that women are afflicted with today is an estrogenic disease. From, as I mentioned, fibroids, breast cancer, early puberty, cervical cancer, ovarian cancer, obesity, even issues such as belly fat are caused by excess estrogen. So these estrogenic chemicals are really doing a number on women. And when you consume soy, that's like consuming the equivalent of 5 birth control pills. That's the amount of estrogen that you are being exposed to. And it's definitely not healthy for you. And even regular organic soy causes painful periods. And the reason why is because soy contains natural components known as isoflavones, which actually lower the functioning of your thyroid gland. And when you have poor functioning thyroid gland, then you are going to have painful periods. It's a really, really common condition for women in this country to have hypothyroidism, which causes women to gain excess weight, lowers their metabolism, and it causes them to have painful menstrual cycles. And soy contains those isoflavones, which actually cause hypothyroidism. So even if you're consuming regular organic soy, which is better than the genetically modified soy, you are going to develop those painful periods due to the hypothyroidism that soy causes you. So it's really best that you avoid consuming all soy foods if you are a woman. And if you are going to consume soy foods, make sure that you consume organic, unfermented soy foods such as natto, miso, and tempeh. Those are some of the fermented organic soy products that have been traditionally consumed in Asia, which again were not consumed in very, very high quantities. It was really, they consume other things like pork and meat and vegetables in high quantities, not tons of soy. That's a really, really, really huge myth. So it's really healthy that you avoid all soy products. And just know that even if you're consuming organic soy, a lot of it is often contaminated with those genetically modified genes, because the genes of these genetically modified plants contaminate everything. They infect everything. So most of our food these days, even if it is quote-unquote organic, is going to be genetically modified because of the cross-contamination, the pollen that gets spread, the GMO pollen that gets spread to different plants. And this infects all the different non-GMO species that are grown. That's why it's best to avoid consuming soy foods. But even if you don't consume soy, soy today, there are plans to use soy in order to as animal feed for fish. So if you're a big fan of fish, you're going to be exposed to some of those soy estrogens, which again cause the numerous estrogenic diseases that so many women are afflicted with. And not only that, if you consume meat, if you consume pork, chicken, eggs, beef, all that is raised with soy. They use soy in order to feed those animals. They use it as animal feed. So, instead of giving the animals a natural diet, they put the animals on these huge factory farms where they give them genetically modified corn and genetically modified soy. So again, you're going to be exposed to more of those really harmful soy estrogens. And not only that, you're going to be exposed to Roundup, because Roundup, again, is a really toxic herbicide which you actually store within your body fat. Most chemicals are stored within body fat. And since most of the animals we eat are female animals, they tend to have more body fat. So when you're eating these different animals, that are fed with these genetically modified grains and soy, then you are going to be exposed to Roundup, which is probably one of the most toxic components of genetically modified soy, and is linked to numerous health problems, including obesity, type 2 diabetes, Parkinson's disease, immune dysfunction, and cancer. Roundup is an extremely toxic herbicide, and it's found in all of our drinking water and in just about a lot of the foods that we consume today due to the influx of genetically modified foods, which represents about close to 70% of the foods that you find within a grocery store are genetically modified, and probably contains large amounts of hidden soy ingredients, whether it explicitly says soy on the label or not. Like I said, because when you buy meat, it doesn't say that it contains soy estrogens. It doesn't say that it contains Roundup, but it is in there because Roundup is actually concentrated within fat. And when you consume fatty meats, which all meat has fat in it, then you're also going to be consuming Roundup, which also destroys your gut bacteria. When you destroy your gut bacteria, that sets in really a cascade of diseases, including inflammation, which actually is the true cause of heart disease. So for those reasons, I recommend that you avoid consuming soy foods and that you buy organic meats only. Because again, most of the animals that we're eating these days are fed soy and corn. Most of the soy in this country that's grown is actually devoted towards animal feed. And as far as learning more about the estrogen and chemicals that are destroying your health and also your fertility and making you fat, check out my recording, Harmed by Hormones, How Estrogen and Chemicals Harm Women's Health. It's an awesome, highly informative recording that I created for women to empower them, to give them information that they need in order so they can avoid some of these harmful chemical estrogens. You can also check out my recording, Live Fibroid-Free. Again, fibroids is a disease which is caused by estrogen. So in order to cure yourself of fibroids, you have to lower your exposure levels to some of these different synthetic estrogens. It's probably the best information out there on curing fibroids. I spent close to about 3 years worth of research investigating fibroids and how to cure them and prevent them. And I give you all the information in that great recording, which again, I'll post a link for that down below. And also post some more information on some of the dangers of soy down below. And please share this video, subscribe to my channel, check me out on Facebook. You can like my Facebook page. I'll post a link for that down below. And again, make sure you check out those recordings, Harmed by Hormones and Live Fibroid Free. Thank you for watching my video and enjoy the rest of your night.